the amount of paint on your brush, the amount of pressure on the canvas, and practice, of course. And it's starting to come over here. Go down that way. And it comes over here and it connects and it goes down. And playing with these things. Like we can take the thing and push it out. Hey guys, welcome back to Paint with Josh. Today we did a 16 by 20 inch gorgeous blue sky, 3 mountains, huge rock in the front, maybe a trail off in the distance. It turned out fantastic. Obviously you think so as well. That's why you clicked on the link. You want to learn how to paint this one. So check the description down below. Make sure you get all the colors you need. Make sure you get your canvas nice and wet. Get ready to throw some paint on. We're going to do it just like this. Hey guys, welcome back to the studio. It's Paint with Josh. How is your December going? We're going to recreate that huge painting that I did today. You've already seen how it turns out. That's why you clicked on the link, wanted to learn how to paint it. So let's go through the colors we have. Titanium white, midnight black, alizarin crimson, phthalo blue, yellow ochre, bright red, dark sienna, and Van Dyke brown, the darkest color browns. So we're going to prep the canvas real quick. Just for those who don't know how to do it, we took our Bob, of course I pick it up the wrong way, right? Of course. We took our Bob Ross liquid white oil paint, shook it up. Whatever kind of gets stuck to the jar is just about enough for what you're going to use. So dip it in, nice and full on the brush. Not too crazy, right? And then we're going to dump it in different places. And that way it doesn't all get stuck up in one place and you have to blend it out, right? We want it to be very thin. You don't need it to be super thick. If it's very thick, it's not going to work well for you. It's going to be a hindrance if it's too thick. You want your brush to kind of glide over it a little bit more. Again, dumping it in different places. And that way we don't have it all stuck in one spot. And I understand if you want to scroll through this section, if you already know how to do this part, then you can scroll through. But first, give us a like, hit that like button, and share us to your grandma. She would love to see it. I guarantee we're going to make her laugh and have a whole lot of fun. So hit the like button before you go scroll until we start putting color on the canvas, right? We'll see you in a second for those of you who are scrolling. But the rest of us, we've never put on liquid white before, so we need to know how to do it, right? So we'll put it on like this. Get it in here like that. Go up and down, all over the place, looking different angles, kind of see where it's a little bit dry, where it's too wet and too thick. Ooh, a little dry up here. Bam, 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 bam. All right, now let's get all zoomed in, up close, and then we'll start painting, right? One last little bit. Now we're going to touch it. And you see just a little smallest bit of the liquid white is on our glove there. Or you'll be able to see all the ridges in your fingerprint. You'll still be able to see through all that. If you can't and it's too goopy, then you have too much. I've got all of our colors here. White, black, alizarin crimson, phthalo blue, yellow ochre, bright red, dark sienna, and Van Dyke brown. So we're going to have a nice blue sky filled with clouds. We're going to go into the blue, dragging it down just like this. Just nice and easy. Gorgeous bit of blue onto our brush, right? Now, since we have our liquid white on the canvas, anything that we put over there is going to instantly become a lighter color. So we're going to start to touch, and as it drags in, it becomes from dark to light all on its own. Fantastic. Come over here, drag that in a bit. Leave these little light areas. That's what we want. How are we going to have giant clouds if we don't have a little bit of blue? All right, now we're going to come back up here, really start to mix it in. Cover over our edges, because I always like to finish the sides. It only takes just a second of your day, right? Now, since we have that liquid white, like I talked about on our canvas, all of these thick oil paints are going to be able to blend. But first, we need to wash our brush. So let's go into the paint thinner, shake it off, over into the trash can, really flex it off, and then into the bucket. And if you've never seen the bucket, it's a gross, nasty oil bucket fit, and it's got a golf ball basket down on the bottom. That's what I had in my garage when I first started painting, and I've used it for the last 4 years. Haven't needed anything else. Okay, now we're going to start in our light area because I don't want all this color to grow and take over all this light space. So just with crisscross strokes, kind of dragging a little bit of the blue in, a little bit of the white out, right? You can cause all these cool little shadows start to form. Maybe not overdo it, and then you'll have this cool little bit. Ooh, look at that. Just as we mix just the edge of the white and the blue, all of a sudden, you start to imagine maybe there's a little bit of cloud in there, right? Drop in a little color, mix it up, changes it up just a little bit. All we need is a few little shadows and a little bit of our white area in there. Right now, as we come around to the rest of the spot, this is when you can really work out all the frustration of your day. Back and forth. Sometimes I like to leave little streaks like that. Makes it look very cool, like our cloud is kind of growing this way. And then down in here, just fast motion is all we're doing, right? You can let it blend down. Look at all that white. All the white down in here makes it get lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter, all on its own. Fantastic. Come up here. Again, don't want to go too far into the clouds. Maybe we'll pull a little bit of blue in that way, and then we'll kind of split. We'll have maybe 2 clouds there. Who knows? Who knows what it's going to look like? Right? Again, we can just blend it down as far as you want. Don't need to go all the way to the bottom. And again, we're going to wash this brush off. So into the cup, over here into the trash can, into the bucket. Beat the devil out of it. Nice and clean, right? And then I always dry it off on a paper towel. That's the, like it sounds like someone's knocking at the door over here. Trust me, no one's knocking. That's just our brush. Okay, now we're going to switch to a smaller brush. I'm going to grab a 1-inch brush because we're on a smaller canvas. We need to have the same effect of this blending, but in a little smaller space. So you switch to the Bob Ross 1-inch brush. Why don't we take a little bit of crimson, and I'm talking about a little bit. See how I drug it out? It became very almost clear down here because we don't need a whole lot. All right, so we're going to come in. You know what? That's even too bright. Let's get a little bit, smallest little bit of black in there. Just mix them together. Oh, yeah. The crimson and black make this gorgeous purpley color. Watch this. And it gets a little bit darker in there. It will start to decide this is the bottom of the shadow of our cloud, okay? Now, I can't go blend it with all of this thick color on there, so we can either wash it or you can change brushes to the same brush, just clean, right? And that way we don't lose everybody's attention while we're trying to clean all these brushes. And we'll come back in here, just mixing up along the bottom. Maybe you pull it out. You go over here, it starts to blend in with that blue. Maybe it makes it a little bit more purpley. Ooh, we'll grab a little bit of blue from up there, bring it in here. Maybe on this side, our shadows are a little bit darker. Very cool. Just by blending it with the colors that are already on the canvas. So, and that liquid white that's underneath helps everything blend together so beautifully. Right, maybe grab a little bit more black, a little bit more of that crimson, and who knows, maybe there's a little bit of shadow underneath this guy. Just a little bit, smallest amount of paint. Knock that paint off of your brush so you don't continue to spread it everywhere. And then maybe down in here, a few little bits of shadow, but I don't want the shadows to touch, right? We don't want them to touch together. That's not what we want. You can take them and blend them away out here. If you don't like it a little bit, blend it, it's gone. Watch, we can bring that bit of blue underneath and connect both of them if you wanted to and really split your cloud up. Depends on what you want your sky to look like, right? Bam, just like that. Now we got 2 clouds floating on top of each other. So let's take the time to wash these brushes. Okay, let's grab our fan brush just like this. And we need to add a little bit of white into our sky. So we'll come into our white. Just like that, back and forth. Just basically on one corner of the brush, you can see. I like to keep one side kind of clean. That way maybe we can use it for a different color. So we'll take this white and over the top of our shadows, maybe we'll start on the top one up here. And let's decide we want all of our light to come from this side. So we'll make this side a little bit brighter, dumping on a little bit more. Maybe it comes up here. Who knows? Maybe it just streaks out into the blue. Really doesn't matter. And I'm going to show you why. Show you why it doesn't matter. We're going to take our brush. I'm going to come into here and just very lightly start to mix up, right? All that white instantly wants to blend away with any color that's underneath it. That's why we left this area white, so it will stay nice and bright. And as we come up here, very, very, very light pressure because these clouds are going to want to blend away. Watch this. If you blend it enough, it goes away. It's literally gone, right? All that blue comes back and takes over. So make sure that when you're doing your clouds, pressure is key. All the 3 P's of clouds for Paint with Josh, right? Is the amount of paint on your brush, the amount of pressure on the canvas, and practice, of course. Of course, practice. Watch, as we get out here, maybe they just start to fling off. I love how and you can literally do whatever you want to do with clouds. And no one can say, oh, that doesn't look like a cloud, because there's no designated shape for a cloud. You know what I mean? Bam, just very lightly, pressure, 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 all about the pressure. Hey, why don't we take a little chemtrail or a contrail, just the smallest amount of paint you can possibly get on your knife, and maybe out of the side of this cloud, he came from behind. You got to have it on the right angle though. Little bit, right? Because it's going to grow. Don't stretch it all the way to the end of the canvas. It'll be too big. And take a clean, dry brush. Come up here. One swipe is all you get, so don't mess it up. Straight as you can be. Cool little contrail coming out from behind that cloud. Very neat, right? Now, let's see if any part of this blue, once we came out here and touched our brush with the blue color, we got blue all over the paint. So let's see, maybe we can use some of that blue as little shadows inside of our clouds, just by touching the canvas, just dumping on a little bit, wherever it lies, and then come back up very, very, very lightly, because again, it's gonna wanna blend. Look, we almost split that cloud in half too, just by adding that little bit of darker color in there. Now, I never wanna come back to here and then go back up here. It's gonna be way too dark. So what if we did, we'll pick up a little bit out here. Just a little bit of blue on the brush. See how it got on there like that, right? And then we'll come back in, tap in a little bit of that blue back into that section. And again, the slightest, smallest, the very lightest touch you can possibly do. And you get these really cool things. I've got to blend this guy out. Very neat, very cool. Okay, now we'll come down and do this guy down here. Now we saved all this dark shadow for a reason, so we can pop up into it with our cloud from underneath and help push that one that's on the top backwards, right? So we'll come back in here. Didn't wash the brush, still has that small amount of blue on it. But the amount of white that we're going to put on the brush should overtake all that blue, right? Because it's a nice thick, look at that, just right down the center. It's like an axe blade or a hatchet. Okay, we'll come in here. Maybe this guy started off over there, but I don't want to lose all the color first. So we'll come in, start to touch, maybe drag that guy that way, right? Now I'm going to get away from the blue, so I'm going to flip it around to the other side. Come underneath here, leave some of those shadows in there, right? We can't get rid of all of these shadowy bits. Otherwise, all of our white is going to blend together and it's not going to look the best. Just like that. Take our brush very lightly, right? Because again, it wants to blend in and it wants to grow everywhere. It wants to grow this way. It wants to grow that way. It wants to cover all of our shadows. It wants to connect with this bit of white. Don't let it. Don't let it. Keep that little bit, that little area of our dark color in between there. That's our separator. Don't want to lose your separator. Just pull those off to the side. Doesn't really matter. We're going to come in with these giant mountains anyway. Who knows what is even going to be saved as part of this cloud. Just let some of it blend down. Take some of that white. Push it down over the top of the shadow. It doesn't have to be a perfectly straight bit of anything, right? And again, you can take this guy. The more and more you go over it, you can start to flatten the bottom out if you wanted to. Get rid of all those colors. Look at all these beautiful whites and blues and pinks and purples. All from using just 3 colors. Well, 4, if you count the white. If you count the white. Let's do a little, we're going to make a mountain. So we're going to come into our black. I can't believe there's 1,000 people. Guys, tap the screen. Tap, 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 tap. That's all I'm going to say. It helps me go to more eyeballs and reach more people. All right, so we're going to come in here. We need to make a couple different mountains, right? And they're going to be further away and then they're going to get closer. So for the further away ones, they need to be a lighter color. We're going to take and mix in some white with our 3 dark colors here to make this kind of grayish color. And why don't we go ahead and we'll go up and put that on the canvas, because nobody wants to just sit and watch us mix paint, right? So maybe our further away mountain came back in here, came down. Don't want it to be too crazily sharp or too big, right? And it's going to grow, so don't worry about it. Damn, just a little bit. It's all you really need. And all that dark paint, when we come up here with our 1-inch brush, is going to want to pull down and stretch out. Maybe this side went this way. Who knows? What does yours look like? Right? Yours doesn't have to look like mine looks. Definitely not. You can do whatever you want. If you want to pull it a different way or you want it a different shape, whatever it is, leave it very dark up here. And then the more and more we go, the lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter it becomes. Maybe even less pressure, right? Don't drag it so far. Now, let's make up a few little shadows for that. So we're going to come into our white, scrape up this little patch of blue. The blue is so powerful, you guys, that it'll take over all of your white. Look at that. Instantly, it's blue already. So we need more white. And more white. And more white. All right, we grabbed too much blue. There we go. That's a cool, and all you want is like a sky blue color. And then take a little bit of that darkness, mix it in there, and it'll just dull it down the smallest bit, like a little shadow. It's fantastic. All right, let's come in. And then we're going to we'll grab up our shadows here, right? You really got to mix up the paint too, because a lot of times the color will be different underneath than it shows on the top. Okay, we'll scrape up a little bit of that. We wanted all of our light to come from this side, so maybe this side's got all those shadows, just very lightly. Our knife is very close to the canvas, right? The bottom is about to touch down here. And the pressure is so light. So light, bam, just like that. Very cool. Very cool little bit of mountain, just like that. Okay, now we're going to come over here, scrape up a little bit of white. We're going to scrape up some of that shadowy blue, but not a whole lot, because we want this one to stay mainly white, right? It's got to be much brighter, but again, it's further away. So the closer that we come with our mountains, the brighter white they have to be. Take some of that color up here and just start to shape your mountain. What does it look like? Scrape it off over this side. Very light pressure to get it to break like that, right? And with these, you want to stay close to the edge. You got to have your edge be snowy. It can't have a dark line up there, Josh. There we go. Very cool. Soft little thing. Maybe the teeniest little bit of that white just peaked right on the top there. Boop. Got its little 15 seconds of fame. All right, now we're going to mix that in because I don't want all the light to show down there. Just very lightly mix it in. You get this cool little soft little bit of snow. Very neat. Very easily done. And this color is very similar to the color that we have underneath, right? And it's also very similar to this. You don't want them to be the same, but you want them to be similar. Right? What's fun too, I like to come back in, go across our shadows, and then you can start to build your mountain as a 3D thing that's starting to come at us, right? Get this whole thing just by the angles of the knife that we can do, right? Now I'm gonna make up a little bit of our darker colors. We're gonna take our crimson, we're gonna take our brown, gonna take the other brown, way over here, smallest little bit of our yellow ochre. We're gonna come down and make up this gorgeous dark reddish rock color. Right? You're gonna take the smallest little bit of red. Mix that in there as well. You get this gorgeous, like sandy bit. Woo, it's nice. All right, now we're gonna take that, wipe off the knife, and at the bottom of all of these shadows, you start to get it to turn into these red rocks, right? So just far off, not a whole lot. Maybe use a little bit of our white paint down in here as well, just to lighten it up so it doesn't look so close. And maybe back here. Bam, that's all you need. A little bit of brown, just kind of hidden up inside of our rocks like that, right? Smallest little bit. And you can see I'm pulling it at different angles. We're pulling this way, then down, then here, then over this way, right? Just like a clock would be. And that way, when we start to mess with it with our brush, it's going to make sense. Now we're going to take our 2-inch brush, put the palette down, take an old 2-inch brush, right? And very lightly start to swipe up. Look at them grow just instantly like that, right? They want to grow, so your swipes have to be perfect. That you can't have them be the wrong direction. Whichever direction you came down is the direction you need to swipe up with your brush, right? Over here, swiping it up into the mountain. Who cares about what happens down here with all these brush marks? That's not important. What's important is the next top line, right? We did our mountain, worried about the top line only, not what was underneath. Now we're worried about this top line, not what's underneath. Now we're gonna come back in, tap, 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 tap. Start to tap up here and drag some of that color down. Tap and drag and drag. Look at those little differences in there, right? Different little things that when you flatten over could be little ridges or different things in there. Very tight. See, now we're not going this way, we're coming down. We're going to come this way. Tap and grab, tap and grab, tap and grab and deposit all the way. Oh, what happened right there? That's okay. We'll just mix it out. Just blend it out. Poof. Gone, baby. All right, now, doesn't matter what happens underneath here. All of this stuff is now fog. Now we can then stick something closer right up into here, and it will seem like it's closer to us in the painting, okay? Very cool. All right, let's come in. We're going to take our other, grab our knife again, take our other bit of color in here and add that down into here. It's just going to get a little bit darker than it was before. And then we still have our darker color here and our black if we really need to go real dark, right? And every so often, if you take some of this dark color, come up in here, try not to drop as much as I just did. My goodness, that was too much. So watch, we're going to scrape it up and then very lightly deposit it down differently. See? If you can do it lightly enough, you can really make anything work in your favor. Just those little bit of extra dark areas back there. Give it that cool little feel. All right, now we're going to come in, we're going to scrape up that darker paint. Let's make another mountain. Right, tiniest bit higher than this guy. Different shape. This guy's a little spikier. He's a little more pointy, right? Comes down into those kind of foggy areas, but you got to have a definitive line in there to help it push it backwards, right? You don't want any colors to line up the same. So all this dark color, this is going to be covered in white, so it's not going to matter. But you don't want these colors to be the same. You want them to be a little darker. It helps it be a little bit closer. Maybe we'll take some of that darkness. There's just the last bit. Maybe put it in randomly down in here. And that way we have cool different things as we start to pull the mountain out. Again, take that. Watch, we're going to cut it off right at the base, leaving some of those little bits of fog back there. We'll cut it down, push it back. Take this guy, depending on how you pull. Maybe it went over this way, maybe it went over that way. Depending on how you pull your brush, depends on what your mountain looks like, right? Pull it off, same angle. See how we're over here? We're on the same sort of horizontal line right here. Horizontal line. We're just gonna make stuff up. There we go. All right, we'll have our cool little ridge, goes off down here. Don't want to put too much paint because the paint wants to grow so far. Really wants to grow. Right, you can even take that 2-inch brush that we use to kind of dab all the fog with, so it's very light amount of paint on it. Just mix up the bottom. You don't have to highlight every mountain. I mean, we're going to, but you don't have to. You could leave that one there, maybe only highlight a little piece of this guy. But you don't have to do the whole thing, is the problem, right? Or the solution, whichever one. Okay, let's take our white. I'm gonna come back in over to this blue, mix that up, scrape it up. We actually never make enough of this color, and in this instance, it seems like we have made enough for once. Okay, we're gonna mix it up all marbled like that. Come in, scrape up a little piece, just a little thing. That's all we gotta do. And then we're gonna come in and decide on the back half. Maybe we got our little snowy shadows back here. Maybe there was a little bit off the back of this peak. Right? You can always go back and cover it if you don't like it. You can slide over it with your highlights in the white, and it will literally disappear. But I like putting a couple little things in to start, and that way it gives me an idea about where we want to go with this ridge. Maybe this guy went down here. So all of this stuff, see my angle of my knife almost touching the canvas down here? All of that has now become a shadow and the snowy side of our mountain, right? We can even take a little bit of that black color. Smallest bit though, don't want to have too many dark pieces, just like that little piece, little bit of darkness. Little bit, nothing too crazy. All right, we're gonna come back over here, take some of that white, mix it into this pile. Again, scrape up the smallest amount of the blue over here so it's not perfectly white. We don't need it to be perfectly white. We want the one that's next to be perfectly white because that one's gonna be the closest. All right, so, and even then it's gonna have different colors, whites in it. So we're gonna scrape up just like that on the edge of the knife. Bam, bam, bam. Come in here. I like starting right at the peak. Oh, it's so much fun. Just do start to decide all of a sudden where our mountain lives, what's happening based on our pulls, right? And this guy looks like he's very a very vertical kind of a mountain. Just like that. Pull it down. Get these cool little pieces, right? Maybe take the smallest little bit, pull it down the side. So you get this little bit, it kind of blends it in. That little likeness there. In our white, coming down. Doesn't have to be a perfect straight line. Just get it on there. Cover over our shadows behind it and let it fall, right? Very cool. Scraping it up again. Come down here. Maybe this guy wanted to grow a little bit. Got a little bit more light in there. Or we had another piece that came down and connected like that. Right? However you see it in your mind, that's how it's going to work the best. Okay, I don't want to do too many because we're going to add some more red rocks. I almost went too crazy, Josh. Too crazy. Okay, let's go back to our red rock section, which is way over here. Scrape some of this guy up. Maybe we might have to cover over some of these bits. Down in here, we'll start to pull it off. Doesn't have to be perfect, right? The rocks and the snow, they'll lay differently. Don't have to worry about it. Don't want to cover up all of our snowy shadows. But we do want to get a bit of that redness, brown, reddish brown in there. Just like so. Again, come back with our brush, start to flatten it. Now, I don't want to drag too far up because a lot of this brown color is going to want to come up with it. So just judge very lightly, same distance, same kind of angles that we came down with our knife, going back the other way. Just like that. Let that darkness drag up, right? It's never going to be perfect, so don't worry if it's not. You're never going to have a perfect dirt to snow ratio, right? up the side. Now we're going to come up this way, pushing that red, trying to get it to go up there, climb up that mountain, right? Now we're going to come in, just start to tap the guy. We'll start over here. Tap over here, just kind of getting some of that brown, dragging it down, letting it mix in. What's happening? What's going on down there? Right? Just using the top couple bristles is all we're doing. That's all I like to use anyway. I never use the whole brush. Most of the brush isn't touching the canvas, right? It's all these top 20 bristles. Why don't they make a brush that's just these bristles? That's it. We don't need all the rest of this 2-inch. Tap, 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 all the way. And again, it doesn't matter what the fog looks like, right? Leave a little bit. Don't let these two colors connect. So we're going to leave a little bit of that bluish back there. Start to mix them up. Bam. Very cool. Just mixing it. It's allowing it to mix with that white, some of the browns, some of the blue. Very neat. Got a cool little bit of mountain just starting to come together, right? Fantastic how we do that. So simple. So simply done. All right, why don't we take just a couple more of these little bits of dark and we'll come in and just give ourselves just a couple shadows in a few little areas, right? Maybe it started to get a little darker down in there, and we can go back and mix that up. A little darker down in here as we started to mix in with these rocks as they go into the shadows. Just little things, right? Nothing too crazy. Now here, very softly, I'm gonna start to throw some of that darkness back up in the same angles. All we're doing is trying to lighten it, right? Just lighten it a couple times. Fantastic. Fantastic. Boom. So soft. Just change it up. Now this guy, again, pulling however you think the rocks would lay or the shadows would sit or whatever. Just you got to decide what it's going to look like, right? Cool little things, just like that. Now again, we're going to come in, mix up some of that brown, that darker kind of blackish color into our brownish reddish rocks. Very neat, just like that. Just those little differences. It helps add that shadow over there. Helps with the shadow for sure. I never like this to be such a perfect straight up line either. Maybe it came over like that. It looks better in my mind. Looks better in my mind. Little different things, right? And sometimes you just got to go back, go over it until it looks how you want it to look in your mind. There we go. Little things, nothing too crazy. All right, now we're going to come over here and grab our last little bit of dark color, which is the darkest of the darks that we made, right? And who knows, maybe this guy, I don't want to come too far, so we'll come over here. This guy's much larger than the other two. Sits a lot closer to us than the other two do. The other two do. Two do-to-dos. Okay, we're going to come up here. Just really lay in that dark color because we want it to be darker than the rest. See how we come into the fog just a little bit with that darker color of our mountain, and all of a sudden it'll start to change it. Maybe the mountain falls down again like that. If we had enough paint on our brush, it might, right? Okay, so then come down, flatten off. Depends on what you want yours to look like. And yours comes this way. Cool little ridge, right? Pulling it off, pulling it down that way. Who knows? What do you want it to look like? That's the question. It doesn't have to look like my painting. I'm just kind of giving you an idea, showing you maybe that guy's like very vertical. And then it comes down and flattens out again. You can push your own mountain back with itself. Doesn't always have to be more paint or more, different color. You can just let it get dark to light, add in a little bit of dark to light to dark to light. And again, you can work at it and just have it do whatever you want to do. Right? And we got this little bit of shadowy side over here. Who knows? Right? All these are lights and shadows. It's really it. And then you go and highlight it and make it look like a mountain. Just like that. Very cool. A little bit different to the big one that we did, but we had more space on that canvas, didn't we? Okay, let's come back. We're going to grab up our white a fair amount of it, big old section of it, a little bit of blue, and just mix it until it's a brighter color than the blue you just mixed in. All that white, we'll take that blue and make it very bright. There we go. So it's basically all white, right? It's almost a little twinge of blue in there is all we need. We're gonna come up here. Well, you know what? Let's do our shadow colors first. Almost forgot that. Grab a little bit of blue over there, a little bit of white over here, and we'll come in and just mix up that blue. There we go. A little bit of that dark, just to dull it down is all. There we go. Take our bit of blue over here. Pulling it off. Maybe that whole ridge just went down that way. And then there was like a little snow-covered shadowy ridge over here. And then maybe that blended down into all of our dark mountainous sandy rocks maybe down in here. It all depends, because I can see it in my mind before how it looks right now. I know what it's going to look like when I go to blend it out, right? So let's come back. We got our shadows over there. Let's do a few more. We have the paint on the palette, might as well. Maybe we had a couple straight up, very steep, sharp cliffs over here. Just went straight down like that. You can go back in and cover over it with your highlights and change it. All right, maybe a little bit. Maybe this guy came down here. And we start to shape what the mountain looks like as a 3D thing with different angles, different levels, all sorts of different things. All right, now we'll come back in with our white. We're gonna come back here to the top, leaving a little bit of that darkness. Maybe it started to fall down. See the difference? How that white is so nearly close. That's what makes it, tricks your eye into thinking that it's snow. All right, and we'll come down. They had this whole section just streaking down the mountain like that. Very neat. Again, we had our shadows back in here that kind of got lost. Put them up, mix it in with that darkness even. Look, it's just, all it is helping the mountain come together. All right, maybe down here we flattened out. Long strokes. Nice, easy little things. Down up in here. Throw that real brightness in to keep it dark over there, right? But don't let these two areas touch. Don't want to have bright touch the bright. That's no fun. Very steep, sharp little mountain that we got going on. Come over here, maybe it starts to flatten out and starts to change. And it comes over here and it connects and it goes down. Maybe we don't fill in that little dark area because we'll come back in with our lighter color blue. Just fill it in like that. Light little things make all the difference, right? Just changes it up. Just slightly. Maybe take the littlest bit of this guy, pull him over to the edge. Woo! That is a fantastic mountain. Right. All depends on our swipes. So make sure your angle is correct. And then go back in. Maybe this guy came down and hit right here. That would make sense. Bam, just like that. Very cool. Look how you got these two different angles right in here that make this little valley. Can't lose stuff like that. If you go over things too many times and you lose something like that, you'd be mad at yourself. I'm telling you, I've done it. Man, that's cool. Okay, we're gonna take a littlest bit of this. Actually, we need to add a little bit more of that blue shadow in there. So we'll mix up our blue. We'll take all this highlight color and just mix that into it. Take it back to its original shadow. Take a little bit of the dark just to dull it down, right? And then we're gonna come in here. Start to drag that blue into the brown, right? Not everything has to be covered in rock or the same way or the same distance or anything. Very lightly, just mix those colors in. Let some of that darkness drag up there. Let's get some of our dark shadows back in here. Very lightly. Very small little things, because they're not always going to be the same. Take our light, cover over. Very cool. All right, maybe we want a little bit of the brown up in here. We'll just throw the brown up in there. Makes sense to our brains. All right, now, I want this last little area to be nice and bright down along the bottom. So we're gonna take our white, go across the edge, and then all of a sudden we have this very cool little bit of mountain, right? Take our brown, come in here. Again, it doesn't all have to be the same, doesn't all have to be as thick or the same color or anything. But maybe we had a couple little bits that just connected. There's a place for our snow to run down into before it starts to rock out. You know, it gets so warm that some of the times the snow just can't sit on it. It really can't. Need a little bit more in here. We're going to change up from the tutorial and go this different direction from where I had planned. And that way it'll be a different painting. It'll be cool. All right, throwing some of that darkness down around the bottom of the mountain. That's all we're doing. That's all we did for the rest of the ones. It's all we need to do for this one. All right. Again, doesn't matter what happens over here. Start from the edge, slide it up. Same angles that we went, right? So back here, I want to slide up just to make it a little bit blurrier. So light pressure though, such a light touch. Don't need anything crazy. Maybe this guy wanted to grow a little bit more up that way. Or down here, wanted to grow a little bit this way. Or mix in, we can always fix the bottom, right? Maybe he started to come up here. You can go as high as you want with yours, right? I don't recommend going all the way to the top, especially on your very first go. Let's scoop up some of that brown paint that we had that we'd mixed in over here. There we go. Just so we can get it to blend in. Start dragging the colors out. Right? Different angles, kind of flat, and then we're getting steeper and steeper. Maybe it was a little bit flatter over here, just so in case you have any little things that decide to pop out, it'll make sense to our brain if we're going the same angles that we were when we were using our knife, right? There we go. Mix it up. Pulling towards the mountain, not grabbing any color and trying to make it extend. Pulling towards the mountain. Go up this way, and then we're going to turn. We're going to go up this way. And we can decide now, do we put another piece of mountain in here? What do we do? What do you guys feel like? What do you want to do, right? What is yours going to look like? Take some of that darkness, just pulling it down. Depends on what you want it to look like. But that looks pretty cool to me. And you know what looks even neater if we took like a smallest bit of this highlight and just made our mountain just a little bit further. Just out there on the edge. I don't know, for some reason I looked at it and I saw that and I was like, that would look cool if it was like that. Just very lightly going to tap the edge of it just to make it, you know, interrupted. Just to kind of change it up the smallest bit, right? Now, what we can do, because it's so hard to fill, that's why I like painting on black canvas a lot, because it's so hard to fill all of this, you know, foreground of our canvas with dark color versus having to paint it in, right? When we use a black canvas, it kind of does it all on its own. As long as we don't cover over too many things, then we're not in too much trouble, right? There we go. So you can do it lightly with a fan brush like that, not trying to mix in too much, not trying to overly do it. I mean, you can change your angles if you want to. Pull this guy down this way. All right, starts to change what our sandy little rocks look like. Right? You can come back in, you can fog it up. And if you have streaks that you don't like, you fog them up. Still, we got it darker than it was before, right? And that way, in my mind, it'd be a little bit darker over here anyway. Very neat. All right, now let's do one more little bit of mountain, and we can even do it with the fan brush. Let's take our black and our crimson and our blue, and we'll scrape them all up like this, all nastily on the fan brush. Look at that. Oh, it's foul. And then we're going to mix it all in down here. And as they mix together, they'll create this really dark purpley color. Why don't we grab up some of our brown from over here, the darker color browns, that Van Dyke brown. Mix that up. And who knows, maybe there was like a softer little something or other that came down in here. Right? Saving those light areas. Maybe, just maybe, we can sneak the smallest little path coming through the mountains, right? If we can do it right. So let's not go too crazy on this mountain yet. Let's come back here. We're going to knock off the brush and so lightly, right? Try to grab the path right there. So lightly. And this guy, I've decided we're going to pull backwards to the left to create our little bit of road or path or whatever it is. I'm going to fill in that section over there. But the more and more we do it, right, the softer it's going to be, the more it's going to look like a little path, which is why I didn't want to create that mountain just yet. There we go. Now we got a little cut through the hills and the forests. Mixing it down. Very cool. Could be an old river bed. It could be whatever you want it to be, really. Right? But don't pull it all the same direction and you're going to slide it up the mountain. You can definitely move this oil paint. There we go. Cool little path. Maybe it's a path, maybe it's not. We'll decide. We will decide right now. Okay, let's come back in with our mountain. Now that we know where our path is going to be, we got to cut it off like we initially had it there to begin with, right? Maybe we can add it back in just a little bit darker. But that's about as big as I want it to be. I don't want it to be very big. And it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger the more we touch it. So just back and forth so lightly. Such a small amount of pressure. Such a small amount. There we go. That's better. I like that. Again, the only person that has to like it is who? Is you. That's right. Okay. Very cool. Now we need to go back in again. Cover over our little bit of mountain. Maybe we'll just bring this guy down and out. Pop him up over here. And then maybe if you want to hide your path, pop the mountain in front. Now our path is back there. Now we need to fill in all this space. Otherwise it's going to get very, very, very bright. So take our paint, fill it up. Using our fan brush, making our little bit of rock or stone or another section of mountain. Maybe he comes up and maybe he goes around. He wraps around the canvas, right? That's why I like to finish the paintings like that. Very cool. Maybe it goes back, then it goes back here. Maybe it goes around. Maybe it comes down over there. Who knows what's happening or how we get to the back of this mountain, but I want to get there. That's my goal. I want to see what lives back there. Right? Maybe take this guy a little bit higher. Just helps push that piece back the smallest bit. Don't want to leave too much of that light color in there, right? You want to leave a little taste of it. You don't want to have too much, for sure. And it helps push it back even further. Maybe we come across this guy. And he starts to fall down or whatever. It gets darker. Or if we went too far, guess what? Take it, mix it up. And maybe pull him back to about right there. All depends. Maybe these two guys are connected at that ridge, right? And just like this, you can push that thing, you can lock the whole thing back in there, or drop a waterfall off right here, or another thing, or something, whatever you want to do, right? Or watch this, we'll blend this together. Blend that like that, and then come back. I mean, how many different ways do you want to make a mountain? Come back like this. Pop him down right here. But I mean, you can do it forever and ever and ever. Continue to keep changing. As long as you have what? What do my fans know? As long as you have differences in color, you can do literally anything. Okay, let's come back. We're going to grab the knife. Let's go say we're going to get a little bit of snow for the top. This is going to be the whitest snow that we've had because it's so close in the foreground over here. We've got our shadows mixed up. So let's grab the shadows, and now maybe, you know, the shadows are kind of really anywhere. The light's over here. We may only be able to see the top side of this mountain. Maybe able to see something else. Maybe there's a little ridge that runs down. Maybe it comes down over here and starts to blend its way down. All sorts of little things. Maybe there was a little shadow on the backside of this guy or the backside of here. And then we play around with it with our highlights and determine what it's going to look like, right? So I want to have a little bit of that red, brown, crimson, yellow ochre, right? Our darker browns. There's the crimson up in there. Recreate that color. It's never going to be 100% the same because we're not mixing it like a scientist, right? I don't know exactly how much I grabbed of each color, which is why it's fun. Right? Maybe we had like a little bit of that red or brownish color up in here. Leave areas to put your snow in as well, right? But maybe this guy didn't get so snow covered. And a lot of that kind of reddish rock is able to be shown through. Looks pretty good to me. I don't know about you guys. And again, I'm the only one that has to look good too, right? And just mix it in, let it go down. You don't have to cover everything. Don't have to fill everything in. It will cover this last little bit right here with the red. And we'll go all white for the rest of it. All right. Come up to our white highlights. And we'll grab around the edge. A little bit. You can get that white and our blue in there. Come back to our white highlights. Maybe a little bit sat out on the edge of that rock. Or it came down this way. Started to flow back and forth. Maybe it's a frozen river of ice. Who knows what it is? Right? Maybe it went out over here. Changed direction. Started to slide down. These things are, it's not a perfect thing, right? Maybe there's a little bit of white. It decided to come up over here. All depends on what you want your rocks to look like. Right? And our other little piece, maybe it got lit up. Yeah, a couple little things. Little imperfections is what I like to say. Right? Because if it's imperfect, that makes it perfect in my eyes. Very cool. A little bit more of that brownish rock right underneath there. See what we can do, right? See how we can make it look. Okay, we're gonna take our 2-inch brush, just from the sides, however you went. You know what I mean? So lightly though, so lightly. If you touch it too hard, you literally ruin it. And that's it. That's all she wrote. So light, right? Maybe up here, just to get them to kind of blend in the smallest bit. All depends on our angles of our brush. Cool little things will start to happen. Neat little things. Don't want to do it too much. You want to leave some areas that are very, textured. Some areas that are a little softer. And come back in. Add little differences. Add little things. Change little things. Fix parts maybe you didn't like. Go back over it. Highlight areas. Just like that. Very cool. All of this is a mess. You get that snow, builds up on top of everything, falls down, goes another direction, changes which way it wants to go. Maybe it was over here. All depends on what you want it to look like in your brain. How did yours lay out? That's really it. Just like that. Very cool. Let me take a little bit of that reddish rock since we've got it. Pull it down like that. I don't like it mixing in with the white though. Watch me scrape all that up. Come back to our white. Add these little differences just to change a certain area. If you don't like the way a certain area looks, guess what? You can change that whole sucker just with a couple new little swipes, right? Very cool. All right, let's take our liner brush. We're gonna go into our odorless mineral spirits, and then we're gonna dab it into that dark color down here. Just twisting the brush, rotating it through, bringing it to a tip, right? We don't need it to be so liquidy, but you want it to be wet, that's for sure. Now, I'm gonna come up here and show you a cool trick. You can use a maul stick, just like this, a yardstick, right? And slide it back and forth across your painting, lay it on the top, rest your hand so you can find an area where you want to put your little birds. I put these 3 little birds into every painting as part of my family, as part of my signature. So they represent myself, my wife, and my daughter, and they go into every single painting that we do around here. We're going to sign this guy down here too. And then we'll see if we need to play around a little bit more and see if we want to add anything, add a fence. You can do all sorts of stuff on a canvas like this, right? Very neat. I like how this one comes out towards us. It's very cool. Wash that brush off. Again, tell us what time it is where you are, where you're watching from, what were you doing just before you were watching this? While we add a few more little details back here as our snow and everything kind of got lost with our tapping. And I wanted to have a few more details back in here, as this is a nice up close mountain, right? We're gonna have a couple little closer snowy details in there. Just like that, just by adding little differences, going over with our white and our highlights, changing it as my maul stick falls all over the place. changing what it looks like, bringing it down. More little things, less little things, right? The more textured it is, the closer it looks. So if I want to bring this guy closer, I'm just going to add a little bit of texture to him. And that's going to bring him closer than the ones that are further away that we made soft, right? And if you go down and happen to pick up a little bit of brown and then come back up and touch it, leave it. That looks really cool. I think it looks cool anyway. Right, drag this guy down. Back in there. Maybe we'll put in some more red rocks. Let's grab a little bit of our dark color though. Just so it can blend in with it. Right, just a little bit of the black. Try not to cover over our signature that I've already put down at the bottom now. Get that dark color in there. Reddish, brownish, stony rocks. And you can literally change your painting just like that. Literally. Now watch. We're going to take this and bring him down just a little bit. Different angles. I'm not pulling all at the same angle. Bring it down. Try not to cover my signature. And there we go, right? So tapping into this guy, and you can change the whole look. Bam, 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 bam. We'll even cover over the signature. It's fine. It's fine. There, boom. Got a whole new little piece. Take our snow, couple swipes, because now we want to get rid of those lines. Wipe your brush off every time too. Wipe it off, wipe it off, wipe it off. You get these cool little things that are starting to grow. Maybe down in there. Wipe it off after each time though, because you're going to pick up too much brown and deposit it back up here. That's not what you want. Not what you want at all. I love sitting and playing with these things. Like we can take the thing and push it out, push it way over here. Take a little bit of our darkness, our black, crimson, and blue. All right, mix that guy up. Maybe take right at the edge of where he was. It becomes a very deep, dark cliff back here, right? And again, all this darkness is going to blend in the more you go across it. So don't worry that it's too dark. You can always go back, make it lighter, mix it in with that red. Very cool. Very cool. Same thing again. Going to come down just lightly. Not trying to let it grow, just trying to soften it a little bit. Mix our fog. We're continuing to bring it down and down and down and down and down into the corner. Man. And the best part about the bottom is we didn't put any paint down here, right? This is all stuff that we've just drugged down from the top. It just makes it very neat, in my opinion. Very cool. Very big, like, ledge. It's about to slide off the edge of this thing. Super cool. Super cool. And this guy's very textured in the front. Very nice. All right. Well, guys, I want to thank you for tuning in and for watching and doing all that stuff on TikTok. I have to make the ending of the TikTok now and do the tutorial and stuff. So thank you guys. I love you. Why don't we just back you up and you can continue to watch the madness from way back here. All right, let's finish. Let's do this. Why don't we take it in white instead? We'll take our white, we'll put it down here, finish off the old painting, and then call this one done. So I want to thank you guys for watching, for trying the tutorial. So yeah, make sure you send in your photos of this painting. It turned out fantastic. I can't wait for you guys to try it. And until we see you again on the next time, take care, have the rest of a good day, and pow, get them out of here. Man, this one turned out good. Hey guys, welcome back to Paint with Josh. Today we did a 16 by 20 inch recreation of my giant mountain painting, and it turned out fantastic. Obviously, you know what? What the heck? What in the goodness? I just looked down and it's like this wasn't blended out. It was very, very much in my face. See, and these are the things that happen during the bloopers. And we make blooper reels for all the tutorial videos. So at the end of the tutorial, if it had a bunch of bloopers in it, then you get to see them. My mouth is so dry. Yeah! One take, baby. Oh, my back is starting to hurt so bad. This is stuff that doesn't normally go into the bloopers. My back just really hurts. Like, you clicked on the link, you want to learn how to paint this one. So check the description down below. Make sure you get all the colors. Damn it. It was so good. And I turned too soon. Here we go. Hey guys, welcome back to Paint with Josh. Today we did a 16 by 20 inch gorgeous blue sky filled with mountains. Gorgeous blue sky filled with mountains. And that's going in the blooper. Skies are filled with clouds, not mountains. Okay.